The first thing that I should do this evening, obviously, is to acknowledge the traditional owners, the Gadigal people. 228 years ago, this was Gadigal land. They were dispossessed. My role this evening is simply to introduce the organisations that are responsible for this gathering here tonight, and they are as follows. We have Save Ashfield Park, No WestConnex Public Transport, including the Annandale Group. We have Eco Transit, Law, LAW, which stands for Leichhardt Against WestConnex, the WestConnex Action Group, known as WAG, and as I've said, RAW, RAW. RAW is the Rozelle group that actually has the support of all of the other groups that I've just mentioned, all of the other groups. Okay, really, as we are starting a little bit late, I think it's probably appropriate that I just now introduce our speaker this evening, our moderator. So I'd like you all to put your hands together, please, and give Angela Caterns a very warm welcome.
It's lovely to see you all. Thank you very much for coming out on this very warm night and this very busy time of year. I must admit that I accepted the invitation to come and be the moderator this evening with some trepidation. I was at a meeting in this town hall a few months ago, and I have to say that it degenerated into a real bun fight. And as a reasonably uninformed, I have to say, Balmain resident, I went away feeling vaguely dissatisfied because I hadn't really learned very much at all about this project, which is called WestConnex. So Rochelle assured me tonight that this would be mainly an information evening, and so I hope that you will all respect that. It's not a protest gathering necessarily, although I'm sure we're all very experienced at those. But tonight is not the place nor the time for that. It's been a very fluid running sheet, I have to admit. It was only decided a few minutes ago, literally, the order of things that were going to happen this evening. Were we or were we not going to have representatives from the Sydney Motorway Corporation? I'm pleased to say that we have, and they have agreed to first of all address us all and then take your questions. Bear in mind that the Sydney Motorway Corporation is simply the project deliverer. They are the client of RMS, the Roads and Maritime Service, i.e. the state government.
So let me just start with a little bit of chronology, and I am sure you are all awfully familiar with this. WestConnex was generated as the 2012 State Infrastructure Strategy, which recommended a whole range of transportation interventions, and WestConnex was one of those. Now, projects often mature and change between 2012 and where we are now, and that is right and proper. And I will talk about some of that evolution and how that came to pass as we go through this conversation. I've been engaged by Sydney Motorway Corporation for about the last 12 months, and my mandate as project director is to carry the project forward from its planning and procurement phase. Excuse me. That might happen quite a lot tonight, sorry. The journey that we've been on is, there was a business case approval by the state government last year, that was towards the end of the year, and at or about the same time, a strategic WestConnex business case was also released to the public domain. That's a reasonably detailed document, and I would encourage you all to go have a look at the 3 technical papers that accompanied that document. One in particular was the traffic and transport modelling, and that will answer a lot of your questions around some of the volumes on roads and how volumes are displaced across the entire project. I will add that because the project has matured and changed a little over the last 12 months, that document, the WestConnex Strategic Business Case, will be refreshed and will be released again. That will be refreshed around April, May of this year, and it will be back in the public domain. Now, in terms of our journey, obviously there's a design team that was appointed earlier in this year, and you'll, I am sure, will be very familiar with a range of geotechnical investigations we've been undertaking around the area. Geotech is an intensely important exercise for what we are doing. One of the things I want to stress is if you see a geotechnical rig, you should not assume that there is going to be a road underneath you or a portal in the area. Why do we do geotech? Sydney is blessed with sandstone. The sandstones are very variable character, and what we are trying to understand is the broad geological features across a wide area. What we are seeking to do is find where there are known and indeed unknown geological features across that area. Why do we do that? It's better to know now than when you're in the middle of a project. So it's no more than good due diligence for projects of this nature to keep on investigating, do your due diligence and understand the features of the environment. Typically we're taking samples to 60 to 80 metres below the surface, or as the engineers call it, at grade. Why are we doing that? One of the key features of the WestConnex project is it is a tunnel. It is subsurface. Typically across the alignment, the tunnel will be not less than 35 metres deep, in other locations up to 60 metres deep. That's an order of magnitude deeper than things like the Lane Cove project and the Cross City Tunnel. This is very deep infrastructure. So we've been going through the geotechnical journey, and we would expect the geotechnical journey to be complete early next year, February, March, at which point those investigations will stop. Now there's a number of things you do with geotechnical, obviously investigate rock conditions and the kind of environment you've got, but the other thing we're also looking for, which I know you'll be concerned by, is subsurface contamination. What do I mean by that? They are sedimentary deposits that were left a long time ago, and we need to know where they are. The other thing we're looking for is understanding the water table movements across the corridor. So in this area in particular, the Roselle rail yard is a PFM 100. That means once in 100 years you would expect a flood event in the Roselle goods yard that would overtop and go into the bay. So that is a standing condition, that's how it has been since it was first utilised, and we are trying to understand exactly where the water table is across the island. Now the other activities we undertook earlier in this year is we had a range of community engagement sessions, which I'd look around the room and I know some of you made. That was deliberately a very high-level exercise. We did not go out with engineering drawings at that point, and that was done for a good reason. We were seeking feedback from the community around things like active transport solutions, where the public transport goes, where the sensitive receivers are, the issues that the community would like us to deliver as part of this project. There is a point that I'm going to stop on here. Well-planned infrastructure is infrastructure that lives with the community, not a community living with infrastructure. Why do I make that point? I live in North Sydney. Who's seen the northern approaches to the Harbour Bridge? There's 18, 19 lanes of road heading into the Harbour Bridge. That is not well-planned infrastructure. That's infrastructure that's evolved over a long time in response to very different environments. That is not the kind of environment my project team is seeking to deliver. The other point I will make is communities change. This community in particular has changed hugely. You will know better than I. The power station, workers' cottages, where it is today. Very different communities in really a very short span of time, 25, 30, 40 years. Well-planned infrastructure is done in a way that can maintain the evolution of an area and not act as a barrier to that. I'll come on to that in a bit more detail about why we've taken a particular tack at the Roselle goods yard and the park solution we are pursuing in that location. So we came out to the community a little earlier in the year, and we recently released on our website, and there are hard copies available in various forums provided to council and other key stakeholders, a feedback report. I want to be crystal clear on the feedback report. That feedback report included everything that was, and I'll use this phrase, publishable, that we could put in a document and put on the internet. It will not come as a surprise at all that some of the comments we received were not perhaps things we could publish, but where we were able to include a comment, it has been included. One of the things we were able to do in that journey was, as we were receiving feedback from the community, we were able to continue to develop the design solution. So So there have been a number of big changes over the last few months. There's two I'll mention in particular. And Rochelle, I know you're very close to one of these, which was the Eastern Park issue. I confirm, absolutely, and if I backtrack on this, yes, I am the person to go see. Eastern Park will not be affected by the construction of the M4-M5 link. The other thing I will confirm is Blackmore Oval will not form a midpoint construction site and will not be touched by the M4-M5 link. We were able to address the Eastern Park issue partly through good engineering, partly through understanding geological features, hence my comment around geotech. There is a geological feature that runs along the northern line of Eastern Park, but also by listening to the community, we rephased how we were looking to execute that. So we were able to preserve that asset. So the feedback was incredibly important. We had originally planned to come back to the community in December of this year and then January, February of next year to come out with a much more detailed engineering proposition. We spoke to a number of the interest groups, I'll use the phrase interest groups if you don't mind, some of who are represented here today, and we also spoke within a West Council. The very clear message we got was please do not come back and do additional consultation this side of Christmas. So we took that on board and we'll be coming back for a detailed round of consultation in the new year. We'd expect to release a document, a design document, towards the end of January, and we'll host a range of events through February and March. Now, why are we the timing like that? One of the features of projects of this nature is we're required to undertake something called an environmental impact statement. The environmental impact statement is a statutory journey with a statutory consultation period. So, in the normal course of public sector investment that is deemed to be a state significant infrastructure, the convention centre would be a very good example, the consultation occurs during the EIS display period. For this project, and I will acknowledge that we are the third project, and when you are the third project, it's incumbent on you to learn some lessons. One of the lessons we learned was to come out and engage. That's why I'm here tonight. So, I am indeed here tonight. So we will undertake another range of consultation prior to the EIS going on display. That will have more detailed engineering information. It will include things like the broad corridor within which the tunnel, the location of, yes, ventilation facilities, the potential locations for midpoint construction sites, what the tunnel will look like, what the signage will look like, what the traffic movements are likely to be. It will necessarily be a reasonably high-level document. Why? Because some of the analysis that we are required to undertake as part of an environmental impact statement is incredibly detailed and takes many, many months of hours to prepare, particularly things like noise and vibration. There's a long modelling activity that we are required to undertake as part of that. We will aim to be going on the EIS in mid-year. Broadly, May, June is the target at the moment. And hopefully that will be on display for 45 days, during which time we'll undertake a further round of consultation. At that point, that will be the third.
I want to ask you a little bit. You mentioned there, Peter Jones, about having learned from your lessons. I just wonder if we might be learning from the lesson of the M5 and the air quality problem that we all face if we ever go through the M5, i.e. you have to hold your breath when you go through there. I just wonder if lessons are going to be learned from that in regard to the stacks that will inevitably result.
One of the issues on the M5, well, there's multiple issues on the existing M5. It was built as 2 lanes and never should have been. The demand in that area, and particularly the bypass function for the airport and the growing communities around it, demanded at that time would have been a bigger asset. The biggest issue on why do you get the smogging effect in the tunnel is the grade on the way in and out. So it's a very steep exit at both ends, and particularly for the heavy trucks that go through, it demands they drop gears, and that produces extra emissions at source, which is the vehicle source.
And I remember the debates over where the emission stacks were going to be, whether there were going to be scrubbers to clean the air, and the cheap option is the option that we got. And now it's disgusting.
What I'm wondering does that mean that we're straight away going to reinstate Leichhardt, Marrickville and Ashfield councils? I mean, they're all elected, so are we consulting, or is that just more bullshit?
I need to be very crystal clear on this. What is my remit? I cannot and will not speak on behalf of elected representatives.
They're not like
Simply not my remit.
No, excuse me, sorry, I'm just going to nip this one in the bud. Sir, these are the corporation tasked with building the roads. They cannot answer that question, I'm so sorry.
I'm just a little bit confused because you said that the problem with the M5 is the depth of the climb in and out as far as the air quality is concerned and the need for ventilation stacks. How is that not going to be avoided when you've just declared to us in your statements previous that this tunnel, pretty much across the board, is going to be anywhere between 30 to 60 metres deep? How are we going to climb 30 to 60 metres deep straight down from the Roselle goods yards from any direction around here for multiple entries and exits, and how can you stand there and tell us it doesn't involve ventilation stacks?
One of the requirements for WestConnex is grade is never more than 4% across the entire alignment. So what that allows us to do is gently bring the tunnel from the surface down to the deepest points, and then keep the main line alignment away and deep around when we go through and under is the key point, the key residential and commercial areas. So that lesson from M5, which is a well-documented issue with existing M5, been well understood, and all roads and maritime services projects now require a maximum grade of 4%. There are some exceptions, and I'll give you an example. There will be locations where we need to go over the North West Metro project. And in those areas, there'll be a very short run where the grade may be a little higher than that because there's existing infrastructure in the way. The Sydney pressure mains one of the other items. So that's the key issue. We are not asking vehicles to struggle up a steep decline, and particularly for the heavy trucks, drop their gears. So as they drop their gears, that's when you get the major pump of emission.
So, what is it that you have done that makes this stand out for the other roads that RMS has built? But more importantly, tell me, I want to believe that you know better than the rest of the world that this is the way to go.
A couple of points, if you don't mind. Roads and Maritime Services are not the determining agency for planning. That is the Department of Planning and Environment, and that is a separate minister. We will deliver the project in accordance with the legislative environment within which we operate. Okay, that's what I'm asked to do, and that is what we will do. In terms of views around supra-agencies or independence, forgive me, not my mandate, not something I can speak to. I can only address the world within which I operate. On the congestion point, yes, Sydney's growing. I would emphasise again that in the long-term transport master plan, indeed the announcements just over the last few weeks, roads projects are part and only a part of a wider, significant investment in the transportation portfolio. We know about North West Rail, we know about the City South West Rail, we know about the new bus fleet that's been acquired, we know about the light rail solution. But traffic is intermodal. People use different choices for different journeys, for different purposes. My view, and I will express this as my view, is that there is a need for increased road capacity in Sydney. I would have a problem with it if it was a single silver bullet solution. WestConnex has never been articulated as the silver bullet solution. It has always been part of an integrated transport investment.
Can you guarantee that the air quality around WestConnex will not adversely impact people who are vulnerable, people with pre-existing respiratory conditions, children, around the local areas of the new portals and the new stacks that are being built? Can you guarantee that the air quality is not going to impact on them adversely?
I'm the project director, I'm not an air quality specialist. What we will do next year is we will arrange, as part of a range of events, for appropriate specialists to be available to answer the detailed questions. Now, on the point, for the environmental impact statements, and air quality is an example of these kind of measures, we are required to demonstrate that we comply not just with New South Wales standards, not just with Australia standards, but also with World Health Organization standards. They are the standards against which we will be measured. That is a requirement of environmental impact statements.
The stacks, the removal of the exhaust emissions, is that decided? Has that been signed off on? Do we know where the stacks will be, for instance? Are they going to have scrubbing? Are they going to have, advanced air cleaning attached to them?
The ventilation, and forgive me, facilities are placed close to where motorway merges from subsurface to surface. So that's been a consistent statement all the way through. There's an existing facility at Haberfield. We will be using the Haberfield facility. There will be a facility at St. Peter's, and there will be a facility in Rosa. In the goods yard.
In the goods yard. So the goods yard is going to be very... Sorry, everybody. So the goods yard will be a big interchange, is that right? At White Bay, there's going to be a massive interchange there at White Bay.
No, the interchange at surface, there will be an on and off ramp for the M5. The M4 will connect into the existing Anzac Bridge, and it will be that surface assets.
And can I ask about the plans for the second harbour tunnel? Are they still... Is that well underway now? Because I understand that that is in fact, and that will also surface at White Bay. Is that the case?
So there are plans for what's called the Western Harbour Tunnel. I hate to do this, but I am going to. That is a project under consideration by Roads and Maritime Services, and it would be inappropriate for me to comment on.
Are you claiming that this is going to reduce congestion? And if so, why is it that the old M5 failed to reduce congestion? It was in fact listed in your own EIS as being one of the most congested roads in Sydney, and having become that way within a very short time of having opened. So again, what on earth makes this any different?
In relation to the first point around traffic, we would undertake and have undertaken a huge exercise in very detailed traffic modelling across a very wide network area, so it's not just around where the motorway is, but it's a wider CBD. The analysis has been undertaken, and I would stress this point, the analysis is actually undertaken by RMS, and we use that information for the design. That allows that information to be independent, so it's not driven by financiers, which I believe is a very sensible place to be. What that tells us, and I'll give you two proxies, along the alignment of Parramatta Road, from, if you pick a point around Homebush and come in towards the CBD, the modelling identifies around a 25% reduction in daily traffic volumes along the length of Parramatta Road.
The Iron Cove Beach does have to keep away every morning and bump to bump, if not gridlock. Any tunnel that goes to the Iron Cove Beach is just going to disgorge traffic onto a traffic jam. So it's pretty obvious that traffic will actually be just gridlocked within the tunnel. Pumping stored car pollution out from the exhaust stack. So I want to understand what the justification of that tunnel is.
You're absolutely right. In that traffic analysis, the Iron Cove link was not contemplated.
We understand that 27 premises on the southern side of Victoria Road in Rozelle are earmarked for acquisition and demolition to make way for the proposed Iron Cove Link tunnel. Please would you confirm that more than half of these premises, people's houses, where some people and their families lived for up to 100 years, between Springside Street and Clock Street, are not actually being acquired to alter the alignment of the road, but merely to provide a works compound during the construction?
first point, and I make this statement with all due respect to everybody's interest in the room and also those people who are affected, is I will not speak to ongoing discussions with impacted property holders, that's both residential and commercial. There is
Is that something that Sydney Motorway Corporation is involved in?
So the powers reside with Roads and Maritime Services. It would be inappropriate of me to talk about individual circumstances of that nature.
My question about the tunnel goes from White Bay to Roselle. According to RMS documents, it's just on a kilometre long, and the speed limit from RMS documents is signposted for 80 kilometres an hour. RMS documents for speed zone guidelines say it has to be a minimum of 80 kilometres an hour, has to be 2 kilometres long, so therefore a increase in the speed over the Anzac Bridge, or a increase in the speed along Victoria Road to cater for the distance, or is it going to be signposted at least at 60? If so, will it be have speed cameras etc. in the tunnel? And what about the surface road that exists between White Bay Tunnel and Roselle? How the surface road is going to be handled? You're going to have storage lanes, cross traffic, etc., and reconfiguring the traffic lights at both ends.
Quite a bit in there, so hopefully I'll get to all of it. So in terms of the distinction between design speed and posted speed, you always design infrastructure for a higher speed than the posted speed, because not everybody follows the speed limit. Okay, I'm not aware of that document. Our mandate is posted at 60 kilometres an hour. Yep. So that's what we will be. So it will be designed at 80, but it will be posted at 60.
Kylie, given that you're the community engagement person, seriously, does anybody listen to what the community has to say?
So we absolutely do listen to what the community have to say.
Come on, please, if you wouldn't mind, just a little respect.
And I'd like to give you some examples of that just over the last 6 months. So one of the lessons that we learned from the other first 2 projects for WestConnex was that we needed to get out and engage, consult with the community earlier. So that's what we've done. As Peter said, the environmental impact statement, which comes out in the middle of next year, is the first point on this project that we have to engage. It's legislated. And we absolutely agree, ma'am, that it is too late. And that is why we have been consulting for the last 6 months, and we will consult for the next 6 months. So 12 months.
So can I just ask you, Kylie, you're listening to us, who's listening to you?
So we have made a number of changes as a result of the community consultation. So let's start with Eastern Park.
Oh, please, keep it down. Don't all just yell a response. Kylie is trying to say something. She's actually answering my question. Please, if you wouldn't mind, just a little respect. Thank you.
So let's start with Eastern Park. We heard loud and clear from the community that it was considered your backyard, and we have changed the way we are operating our construction sites so that we will not have a construction site in that park.
They've given a fair bit of their time. Is anything going to be achieved if they stay here a bit longer? Is anything going to be achieved, do you think? Or shall we put them out of their misery?
I'm happy to continue answering the question.
Sorry, Michelle? 5 more minutes? Okay, 5 more minutes. Okay,
so I'd like to continue answering that question. Eastern Park is no longer used as a construction site. It has nothing to do with the features underneath the park, because they do not impact whether or not we use it as a construction site. That decision was made because we heard loud and clear from your community that it was land that was precious to you and you wanted us to look at alternatives. We looked at alternatives and we found others. That was the same with Blackmore Oval. We heard loud and clear from the community that Blackmore Oval was used by many people in the community for sporting facilities and others, and that it should not, and you preferred that we did not use Blackmore Oval as a construction site. We heard that. It's no longer going to be used as a construction site.
Did you hear about our council?
Okay, thank you, Kylie. Obviously, she doesn't have a lot to do with the council. Kylie, thank you very much for your response. We're just going to keep going for another couple of minutes, perhaps questions to Peter once more. Thank you, Kylie.
I would like to get an idea, even though I'm sure you'll come it off and say it's RMS, of what the cost of the property acquisitions and all of the associated network enhancements, such as the road widenings to funnel traffic into WestConnex will be.
The total project cost, and it is a total project cost of the WestConnex project, is $16.8 billion.
For those of us that live near the two midpoint tunnel sites, can you give us some specific guarantees publicly that we will not be having 24/7 truck movements, that we will not be having public transport along Parramatta Road stopped, interfered with or gridlocked by the movement of 12 to 15 trucks 24/7 or throughout peak hour?
We will go through an environmental impact statement. The Department of Planning and Environment will determine our working hours. Our expectation is as follows, that at surface it will be standard construction hours, which are typically 8 till 6, 8 till 7. 7 till 6, I beg your pardon. In some locations they will be shorter hours because of the nature of the location. This will be detailed in the environmental impact statement. So at surface, it is not a 24/7 operation. Underground, it is a 24/7 operation. Now I want to be crystal clear on that. It will be underground a 24/7 hour operation. In the EIS we'll detail the mitigation measures that we will take. The standard industry response, we would like a higher benchmark. I'm going to come on to a risk that's particularly associated with this, and it's one that I'm very conscious of, we're actively addressing at the moment. At the site we'll have acoustic sheds over the top of the what's called the dive structure and the adit structure, because the noise is, the risk is an echo chamber effect of that dive structure. We'll use acoustic sheds.
By the way, the RMS representatives were invited to come and address the meeting and they declined the offer, so I think you should perhaps please thank Peter Jones and Kylie Cochran for showing up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So again, thanks very much. Please don't get up. I'm sorry, but there are hundreds of people here. So ladies and gentlemen, please don't leave, because there are several speakers here who I think you'll be very interested to